A pristine glacial lake nestled within the Tetons themselves, and some close-up views of these mountain peaks. Roughly 8 miles, 2,300 feet up from the valley floor, and some off-trail hiking leads you here, to what is, for better or for worse, one of this park's most popular trails. We're hiking up to Delta Lake in Grand Teton National Park. The best hike or trail in a national park is, of course, subject to opinion. And in a park as spectacular as Grand Teton, it's a pretty tough opinion to form. What about most popular? That title probably belongs to Jenny Lake, due to its beautiful views and accessibility. And then there's Delta Lake, an unofficial hike starting from the Lupin Meadows trailhead just south of Jenny Lake. It's about 8 miles round trip up into the heart of the Tetons and back down to reach this stunning glacial lake. Yes, glacial lake. There are indeed still glaciers up in these mountains, and Delta Lake is fed rock flour by Teton Glacier. A fine sediment smaller than sand, glacial rock flour is responsible for the turquoise milky color of Delta Lake, among others. At least, you get these beautiful colors when the lake isn't frozen, of course. From roughly November until June, maybe even a little later, Delta Lake is frozen solid, the trail covered in snow, and is far more difficult to reach. And of course, is lacking in that classic color. Depending on the amount of snowfall and temperatures from any particular winter going into spring and summer, it could take a while for Delta Lake to thaw. I found this out in mid-June of 2022, encountering quite a bit of melting snow and a half-frozen lake. And snow will make it more difficult. I post-holed my way across both boulder fields, yes, there are 2 of them, and lost the trail a few times before scrambling up this steep snow embankment. Summer and early fall visitors likely won't face the same issues. And the lake isn't the only attraction on this trail either. Tranquil forests, mountainscapes, valley views, and Taggart and Bradley Lakes down below are just a few of this trail's highlights. It's also prime for wildlife spotting, including mule deer, marmots, coyotes, and yes, bears. Don't forget to give wildlife at least 25 yards of space, and 100 yards of space for predators. Bear spray is an absolute must for this trail, and be sure to make plenty of noise while hiking this one too. I've done this trail 4 times total, seeing no bears, only 1 bear, and then a record 8 bears, including cubs. So now that we have some expectations for Delta Lake, let's waste no more time. Like I mentioned, Delta Lake is an unofficial trail, though the vast majority of it is actually the Surprise and Amphitheater Lakes Trail, which starts from Lupin Meadows here. There's a large parking lot at the trailhead, but be warned, this is an extremely popular hike, and the lot fills quickly. I recommend an early morning start. A quick glance up gives you an idea of how high we're going. About 2,300 feet of elevation, and around 7.5 to 8 miles round trip. I'd plan on 6 hours or so to complete this one, and perhaps longer depending on how much time you spend up at the lake itself. This trail guide is going to be a compilation of the several times I've done this hike, including with snowier conditions in June of 2022, and then some fall colors in September of 2024. With plenty of water, snacks, sunscreen, and bear spray packed, it was time to start the hike up to Delta Lake. Proceed to the back of the parking lot to begin the Lupin Meadows Trail. The first 15 minutes or so is forested and relatively flat. And despite being well trafficked, we ran into these curious mule deer right in the beginning. It seemed like they were pretty accustomed to humans, showing absolutely no fear and making absolutely no effort to move. Continuing forward, there's a clearing with a meadow on your left. It was here that I spotted something moving near the tree line. A lone coyote. I watched for a bit as it rummaged around, posing for some wonderful photo opportunities. But it was time to continue on. The trail eventually begins heading upwards into denser forest. I can't say much except to keep on going from here. Your next real landmark will be this bridge that crosses Glacier Gulch Creek. From here, the tree line opens up just a little bit, providing views of the Tetons, including the Grand, off to the right. It's still uphill, but kind of gradual at least. Though don't expect any more level sections. We're not even to the true switchbacks yet. Following a ledge on your left, this is one of my favorite sights from the trail. Nez Perce Peak here dominates this particular Teton view as it opens up just a little bit. This part ends with a junction in the trail, and a great place for a quick break. Left continues the Valley Trail, while right takes you towards Surprise and Amphitheater Lakes. And Delta Lake, of course. So once you're ready, head this way and get ready for some switchbacks. 6 switchbacks to be exact, which ends with a turnoff onto the unmarked portion of the Delta Lake Trail. Don't be surprised if you start seeing some wildlife from these switchbacks, including marmots and these chipmunks. Be careful if you stop for a rest around these guys. They will be all over your packs in no time, trying to get your snacks. Seriously, I turned my head for a few seconds and had one trying to get into my pocket. Please don't feed them. It's also a good idea to scan the areas between switchbacks for bears. Back in 2022, I encountered this mom black bear with 2 cubs. Using my long lens from a safe distance, I was able to sit and watch them for a bit, grabbing some great footage and photographs to match. And then on the way back down, I encountered a completely different mother bear, along with her cub. And it was June of 2024 when I did a portion of this trail in search of black bears to photograph. Not having much luck, it was near the very last switchback that I spotted this cinnamon black bear, who rummaged and foraged for quite a bit, giving me ample opportunity to get some great footage and photos. But wildlife and burning leg muscles aren't the only things to look forward to on Delta Lake switchbacks. The tree line is less dense here, providing stunning views of Jackson Hole Valley. Hiking this one in the fall with lots of golden aspens made it even more beautiful. You'll notice 2 greenish lakes down below too. These are Bradley and Taggart and can be hiked by a separate trail system. I did a portion of this trail in 2023 and more recently this past winter, which you can see in the video linked above and in the description below. I much preferred the fall views up here to the spring. The first time I did this trail, it was a lot less vibrant and still covered in patches of snow. Once you reach the end of the 6th switchback, you essentially just continue straight, as opposed to turning left and starting the next switchback. This turnoff begins the off-trail portion leading up to Delta Lake itself. While technically off-trail, there's certainly been some maintenance done to it. Plus, it's extremely well trafficked, making it relatively easy to follow. Easy up until the first boulder field, that is. Yes, there are 2 boulder fields to cross, mixed with some steep inclines, before you're rewarded with that classic view of Delta Lake. Careful footing on these boulders sees you across it. If you're doing this part earlier in the year and there's still snow, crampons and trekking poles are a good idea, along with an early start. Once the sunlight hits the snow and speeds up the melting, there's a good chance you'll post hole through it. Being careful of any wobbly boulders, make your way across the field. Looking up, you should just barely be able to see the tip of the Grand Teton itself. Head this direction, crossing this wooden beam and catching the trail back through the woods, albeit briefly. Eventually, you'll come upon another boulder field. Stay to the left of this one to start, heading up a steep incline, before inevitably having to cross it. This spot can get just a little confusing in my experience, and having an offline map to follow here, like the one on AllTrails, linked below, can be immensely helpful. Cross the field while heading upwards, using the Grand Teton, now a lot more visible as a reference. When I did this in the spring, still covered in snow, the last gasp to the top was tough, reached by this steep snow-covered embankment. Crampons and poles were necessary to pull myself up. In the fall, however, it was just another boulder scramble, emerging at the top to one of Grand Teton's most fantastic views. Step over the trickling stream and take it all in. This past autumn, the lake was a perfect turquoise hue, and the mountains relatively free of snow. And here's the same view from mid-June in 2022, the lake half frozen and quite a bit more snow on the Tetons. I still struggle to identify what peaks these are. I'm pretty sure we're looking at the Grand Teton here, partially blocked in the front by another. Maybe Disappointment Peak? Maybe something else entirely? I don't know. But regardless, it's a beautiful view. I made my way around to the right side of the lake to take a break and grab plenty of shots. Some choose to swim in Delta Lake. Just be warned, like I mentioned earlier, this lake is fed by a melting glacier. The water never gets warm. So if you do jump in, regardless of the time of year, it's going to be very cold. Begin your trek back down once ready. If you're hiking in the summertime, it's probably best not to linger too late into the afternoon when thunderstorms are more common. And of course, there's plenty more to do and see in Grand Teton National Park, which you can find in my longer video guide linked right here. Until the next time.